Like I said before, so we're 3 weeks away from Pesach. That's what Shabbat Parah really means to the majority of us, right? It's a time when you say, okay, I need to start cleaning, I need to get the Pesach stuff. We start seeing the Manischewitz cakes pop all over the place, every supermarket. But there's a deeper meaning to Shabbat Parah. And I think for the first time in many years, I'm going to talk this morning about Shabbat Parah. You know, it's actually a big temptation because Parashat Ki Tisa is so filled with meaning and so many different things to speak about. But Shabbat Parah is really remarkable. And I hope that I can do it justice because it really holds within its enigma of why do we even read this Torah portion, this Shabbat. It holds a tremendous meaning for the Jewish people and for the survival of the Jewish people. So this is how the reading of Parah begins. This is the statue of the Torah, Chukat Torah. They should bring you a red heifer, completely red, without blemish, upon which no yoke has been placed. If anybody can explain to me what this has to do with Pesach, I'll pay for your kiddush. Reality is that we have to look for a deeper meaning, right? It's about purity. It's about the purification of the ashes of the red heifer. And so many questions, because when you read the ritual from the Torah, clearly we're trying to purify ourselves. But the person that performs the ritual becomes tameh, becomes contaminated, impure, with the ashes of the parah, of the heifer. So it's really puzzling. And the real answer is, the Torah is trying to tell us that before we celebrate Passover, before we bring the Korban Pesach to the temple, we have to be pure. You know, there seems to be an obsession in Judaism with the contamination through death, right? Talk to anybody who's a Kohen, and they will tell you, I can't go into the cemetery. I mean, I know Kohanim, and pardon what I'm going to say right now, that will eat a ham sandwich while driving to shul on Yom Kippur, but won't go into the cemetery. No, it's really, like one of my teachers used to say, don't look for consistency. Jews don't get that choice, okay? But it's true. People, especially Kohanim, take this thing about becoming impure if you come in touch with death. They take it very seriously. And by the way, let me just remind you, there is no temple today. So this is just rhetoric. It's just a symbol. It really doesn't make you impure anymore. There's nothing for you to contaminate. You cannot perform the sacrifices in the temple. So you have to take it easy. Okay? Now, why the obsession? And let me explain to you to which point this obsession is an obsession. There's a Gemara, there's a sugya in the Talmud that talks about the ritual of the high priest on Yom Kippur. He used to walk behind 7 other priests on the way to the temple, just in case on the way to the temple to perform the services, they will stumble upon a dead body. What are the chances? And if that happened, then the first Kohen in the line will become tameh, but the Kohen Agadol will still be pure. You know, we're so ingenious. We come up with these inventions, no matter why we are, we are startup nation. This was a startup too. How to prevent yourself from contaminating through contact with the dead. So you touch a corpse, you're impure. You enter the room where the corpse is, you're impure. Even the priest who prepares the ashes of the heifer is impure. Why the concern? Why? And here's the answer. Judaism is sending us a stark warning. The Torah, by the way. Do not normalize death. Don't let death become something that just happens around you and you pay no attention to it. The moment you normalize death, the moment you can stumble upon a dead body and just jump over it, you are no better than the other nations around you. This is an incredible, incredible teaching. And by the way, when we talk about this Haftorah, that's exactly what the Haftorah is trying to teach. This is what the purification is all about. God keeps saying, you are a different people. And I will give you back that heart of flesh that you deserve. Because you feel different, you see different, you understand the world different. Death exists, but it shouldn't become ordinary. When a society becomes comfortable with death, it is no longer moral. And let me explain to you why I'm addressing this Shabbat. This Purim was not like any other Purim we ever celebrated, at least during my lifetime. Last Saturday at this time, we didn't even know what was really happening back in Iran. And I've spent the entire week watching all of these pundits try to understand, why are we doing this? I just want to remind us that a couple of months ago, there were 50,000 people dead in the streets of Tehran. And nobody batted an eyelash. The moral police of the world went to sleep. And now we want to know why? By the way, I have read no shortage of articles justifying the entrance of the United States into this war that go from the very anti-Semitic, like Israel made me do it, the Jews made us do it, right? By the way, you cannot not talk about Tucker Carlson. What an imbecile, right? I mean, this guy is the buffoon of the century. Blaming it on Chabad? Again, this gives Purim a whole new meaning. And he was not trying to be funny. Okay? I said Tucker Carlson. That's what I said. I'll repeat it again. I'll try not to say that name from the Bima, but I just that means you have to come more often to shul to get used to my accent again. Okay. So, here is the problem. Some people are writing, we're really doing it because we want to confront China. This is really about China, not about Israel. Dear friends, are 50,000 deaths for nothing not good enough for you? When we did it in Bosnia, nobody said anything. We've done it so many times in history. What's such a concern right now? Because the Jews are involved? Because Netanyahu made us do it? What on earth is happening to our world? I want you to pay attention to one incredible thing that you see over and over again in the news. The marches of Iranians outside of Iran. They're wrapped on Iranian flags and also in Israeli flags. That's not a small detail that should be overlooked. For the longest time, for 40-something years, they believe that the only people that can feel their pain is us. Because we've been at the receiving end of this hate and this threat of another Holocaust for all these years. And if that's not enough for us to do what we're doing, I don't know what it is. I often tell the story that I told you when I came back from the first time I went on the March of the Living. I walk into Auschwitz and I run into a decorated U.S. Army officer. And he's with other military attachés from other countries, right there, in Auschwitz. And I'm looking at him. So he starts looking at me because he thinks I'm crazy, right? I'm just looking at him, staring at him. And he says to me, "Are you an American?" I said, "Yeah. And I want to thank you for being here." And his answer was, he hugged me, and he said, "As long as we're here, this will never happen again." What you're seeing over Iran right now is a fulfilling of that pledge, by the way, but also the fulfilling of the pledge that we cannot stand idly by, not as Jews and not as Americans. And don't let the pundits on TV convince you that you need an economical justification or that China is at stake here. No. We need not to go that far. Before freedom, the Torah is warning us, before you can experience redemption, purity is a must. And that's why the person who performs a ritual becomes impure, because even that person, even that Kohen needs to know that even when you're purifying others, causing death is not the norm and should not become the norm. Look, I am never going to forget. I was once in Israel, and Ranangi Singh, who was an advisor to Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, said to me, what I can't forgive these people from doing is to having my 18-year-old look at them through the sight of an M16. That I can't forgive them. This is not natural for us. We don't want to be doing this. But here's a warning. If we don't, we will see the world just like they see the world. And just like my grandmother said, you cannot see the world like they see the world. That's why we're still here after all these thousands of years. This imperative of purification extends beyond throwing water at things to make them pure. It extends beyond burning ashes. You want to know how obsessed we are with this idea? When somebody dies, the Hever Kadisha, the Holy Burial Society, takes that body with tremendous love and care and purifies it. You know, the first time I spoke to a funeral director in Las Vegas, they asked me, is there going to be a washing? And I said, what? Are they going to be doing a washing on the body? I said, what do you mean? I've never seen tahara, the ritual, as the washing of a body. You wash your jeans. You wash your car. You purify a loved one. It's completely different. And we do it with love, and we do it with care, and we pay attention. But think about it. The ultimate source of contamination, we make it pure before we bury it. That's unbelievable. That's how far this obsession extends. We cannot normalize death. So we're not fascinated by it, but we do what we have to do. And we're fighting against societies who glorify death, who teach their children that blowing themselves up is okay, that when you die with violence, it's better, that when the bombs of the enemy get you, you get 72 virgins. This is not okay. This normalization is what we're really fighting against. It's not Chabad that made us do it. Seriously. By the way, Tucker Carlson raised more money for Chabad this week than any of the rabbis ever did, ever. Such a schmuck. The bottom line, Jewish history has always been about choosing life. And sometimes choosing life means that we have to actively protect life. And that's exactly what we're doing. You know, the first verse of the Pirkei Avot talks about how the transmission of the Torah, the oral Torah, was made. And at the end it says that we have to build a fence around the Torah. And that fence around the Torah is a spiritual fence that prevents outside influences from modifying who we are and what we believe. What you're seeing play out is the enactment of that fence. And here's a warning too. And with this I will end. There's an Israeli TV show that's the equivalent of Saturday Night Live. It's called Eretz Nehederet, our beautiful land, our great land. If you've never watched it, I keep telling everybody who talks about how Israel should fight the propaganda war that they should subtitle Eretz Nehederet into English. Because if you do that, you will see how Israelis are really feeling. So they circulated a video, of course, formatted for Instagram, of the Ayatollah with burning flames behind him. And he says in Hebrew, "You thought I was going to go away without formally saying goodbye to you?" And this is really, really powerful. He says, I want you to think about the following thing. And remember, 70% of Israelis watch this TV show. We are done. You got us. We didn't succeed in killing you. But remember, we were once like you. A flourishing society, a powerful nation with moral values, secular values, religious values together. And then one day, we went crazy. And we elected the clerics. And we thought nothing was going to happen. It was going to be okay. Ha ha. Look at what you had to do. And then he walks away. This is modern Israel's warning. We need to read our sources and understand the Torah in a way that makes sense for us as moderns. If we don't, that fence that surrounds the Torah collapses. And everything that you and I consider sacred about Judaism will evaporate forever. That is to say, in the midst of this incredible fight that we're fighting, we cannot forget who we are. And we have to keep our eye on the ball. That our internal matters do not become such a snowball that they bury us and we cannot fight the fight that we're supposed to be fighting. Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Let us please rise. We're going to continue on page 184 with the Chatzi Kaddish for Musaf.
יתקדל ויקדש שמי רבה
אמן.
ועלמא דברה קדושי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חוני וימי חוני וכן כל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן